is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show. We have quite a bit to get into, such as Maryland pulling off a big win, 2 big wins to be exact. How big were their wins over Purdue and Northwestern? And how about USC? They are on the rise. They took down Oregon on Friday. We had a lot of upsets on Friday. LMU beat Pepperdine. Utah swept Washington. Lots of upsets to get into in the world of NCAA women's volleyball. And how about Serbia winning the FIVB Women's World Championship for a second straight year? Who did Serbia beat to get to in terms of the semifinals and the finals? And who are the ones that finished with silver and bronze? You know what the deal is. AVCA Volleyball, Zap the Net. I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday morning, depending on where you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 164 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let's get on into this volleyball business. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without the help of IE Sports Radio providing the platform. IE Sports Radio can be found on many social media outlets such as Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. That is the user handle. You could also find them on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you click on the link, or when you go to the website, you'll see a Patreon link at the top, which starts out at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our shows, including and especially Set Point. And higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Marcus Lowe's Great, Key to the Gate, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. Now let's get on into the volleyball action. So, we're going to hold off on the NCAA women's volleyball because I think everyone wants me to discuss that. But we got some FIVB women's volleyball to discuss, as basically last week was the final week of the season, final week of the FIVB season to be exact, as we were in the top 8, as the top 8 consisted of Italy, Brazil, Japan, and China. And then Serbia, USA, Turkey, and Poland. So basically, the top team from Pool E played the 4th place team from Pool E, and then the 2nd place team from Pool E played the 3rd place team from Pool E, and the same can be said for Pool F. So it didn't have any crossovers. It didn't have 1st place from Pool E played 4th place from Pool F. It wasn't like that. So it was a weird little format, but it's all good. So, in the quarterfinals on Tuesday, we had Italy defeating China in 4 sets, 25-16, 25-22, 13-25, and 25-17. Not too big of a surprise just because I know how good Italy is, but credit to China. They fought in that 3rd set, but unfortunately, Italy was just too darn good. In the other quarterfinal, we had the United States defeating Turkey 25-22, 25-15, and 25-20 in a sweep, as I was a little surprised to see the United States sweeping Turkey, just because Turkey has seen the U.S. quite a number of times, especially in those exhibition matches at Long Beach and at UC San Diego. So I'm a little surprised to see Turkey getting swept, but the U.S. does have some depth. And like I said last week, the U.S. had a lot to prove when it came to the FIVB, because they were once the number one team in the FIVB nation, but then they kind of took a little tumble in the quarterfinals of the previous tournament. Also in the quarterfinal, we had Brazil reverse sweeping Japan. Now this was very interesting to say the least. Japan obviously is good, but Brazil just came out with a sluggish start. Obviously, they don't have Julia Bergman as she's playing in the NCAA, she's playing in her senior year right now. So Brazil obviously fell behind two sets to nothing. Then they tightly won the third set, narrowly won the fourth set, 25-22, and then they won the fourth set 27-25. And the first two sets, Brazil lost by scores of 25-18. And then the fifth set, quite tight, but Brazil was able to pull out the win over Japan, winning 15-13, advancing to the semifinals. It was quite the big win for Brazil. Heartbreaking loss for Japan, just because they nearly had pulled off a big win, just because Brazil is always that juggernaut when it comes to FIVB volleyball. And then Serbia outlasted Poland, the host team, in 5 sets. They lost the first set 21-25, won the second set 25-21, won the third set 25-19, lost the fourth set 25-14, and narrowly escaped with the win as they won 16-14. So the semifinals were Italy versus Brazil and Serbia versus the United States. Basically, Italy-Brazil was a rematch of the previous FIVB tournament, which saw Italy and Brazil facing one another. And then the United States had to play Serbia a second time, which was a third rematch, just because the previous tournament saw them losing in the quarterfinals, and then the U.S. lost to Serbia in pool play. So jumping over to Wednesday's matchups, just because everyone else... Wednesday's matchup, the United States took on Serbia. Serbia came out ready to go. They seemed to have the United States' number, as they won the first set 25-21, won the second one 25-20, and already it looked like the United States was going to be on its heels. But then in the third set, the United States showed some grit and resolve. They won the third set 25-17. Fourth set was pretty much back and forth, but Serbia ultimately pulled it out in narrow fashion, winning 25-23, advancing to the final. Keep in mind, I never got to mention this, but Serbia was actually the reigning FIVB champion in terms of the world champion. So for Serbia, it's kind of a little surprising, but not too surprising, just because, once again, they seem to have the United States' number ever since the previous FIVB tournament, where they managed to upset the then number one ranked United States. So Serbia advances to the final, while the U.S. plays for bronze. As for Thursday's semifinal between Italy and Brazil, Brazil was able to come out on top. They won the first set 25-23, lost the second 22-25, won the third 26-24, and then won the fourth 25-19. So Brazil, even though they didn't have Julia Bergman, they obviously were potent without her, and they proved that they wanted to win this FIVB tournament, just because the previous one saw them finishing second behind Italy, and it was kind of a little good redemption matchup. And again, despite not having Julia Bergman, Brazil was resilient, and they were able to advance to the championship. So on Saturday, we had the third place matchup between Italy and the United States. Long story short, Italy swept the U.S., which I thought was a little surprising. They won 25-20, 25-19, and 27-25. I'm a little surprised to see the U.S. not medaling in this tournament, but it was kind of a tough tournament. I mean, you look at Italy, Brazil, and Serbia. Those are 3 really good teams. And the U.S. is also very good. But I don't know. This must have been one of those tournaments that just this must have been one of those FIVB seasons that just was not the U.S.'s way, because normally when you see the United States, they're just really good, and they're obviously medaling, unlike the previous tournament, but this time it was a little bit different. It's probably just getting used to new personnel, obviously not having Jordan Larson. I think she's pretty much called it a career when it comes to playing international volleyball. But overall, the U.S. had a good run, but they still have quite a bit to work on before their next FIVB season. So as for Italy, it was a very good win just because, obviously being the United States isn't easy, but to sweep them is also quite astounding as well. I don't know if the U.S. was just so drained from losing in the semifinals, but overall, I give Italy a lot of credit. They really played their hearts out. And then the final between Brazil and Serbia. Serbia swept Brazil 26-24, 25-22, and 25-17. I want to say winning the first set was the turning point for Serbia, because if they don't win that first set, it's kind of an interesting matchup just because Brazil feels good about themselves going up 1-0 into the set number 2. But Serbia really started to pick up their game. Again, no Julia Bergman for Brazil, but they looked good without her. Not that I'm saying that she wouldn't have made a difference. I'm just saying that Brazil is always that good team year in and year out when it comes to the FIVB and to like the Olympics. So unfortunately Brazil does not. They medaled in both of these tournaments, both the FIVB tournaments in the World Championship, and then I forget the title of the other one, but either way, 2 silver medals isn't too bad. Serbia wins its first and only gold medal of the FIVB season, as Serbia didn't even lose a match in this whole tournament. So the fact that they narrowly made it out of the quarterfinals, and then they showed the United States who's boss, and then obviously they just flexed their muscle in the final, shows how Serbia has quite improved. So I really got to give a tip of the cap to Serbia. Brazil, obviously, they deserve a tip of the cap too, just because make it to the finals in both FIVB tournaments is no easy feat. And heaven knows what this team will look like once they have Julia Bergman back. And then Italy deserves some credit as well, despite they medaled in both tournaments. They won the gold medal in the previous FIVB tournament, and then they won bronze in this. And then the United States, again, it's just a work in progress. I think they'll be back once they work out a few things, and I really think that the United States will be back on top of the podium once they basically work out a few things, once they get figured out in terms of who's going to be their top hitters. They do have a good portion of their team returning from the the Olympics, from the Olympic team, such as Annie Drews, Jordan Poulter. The list goes on and on. So I think the United States will be fine. And then there are just some new faces from the United States that had to get used to playing on the United States women's national team. So it's just a work in progress for the United States, but I think they'll be fine going forward. So that is going to do it for the FIVB World Championship recap. There are only a few matches. There are only 7 matches, and that's pretty much it for the FIVB season. So basically, going forward, it's just going to be NCAA women's volleyball talk, and maybe some high school girls volleyball talk. I said on Twitter that I was going to discuss the CIF Southern Section Girls Volleyball Division 1 tournament a little later, and I'm going to do that right then and there. But we actually did have some NCAA women's volleyball news, this was broken yesterday, and this came out of the Big Ten. And this came out of snowy and chilly Minnesota, as this was the big news right here. So Hugh McCutcheon, the longtime Minnesota coach who has been named Coach of the Year pretty much every so often, said that this is going to be his last season. So this is going to be his last season coaching Minnesota women's volleyball. So basically this is his last dance. He has a 265-71 record, as well as 3 Final Four appearances in 11 seasons with the Golden Gophers. So a nationwide search will be conducted on who will be the head coach for Minnesota. But during that time, Matt Matt Hook. Hook will serve as the interim coach, and this was a quote from athletic director Mark Coyle. He is a respected leader in volleyball, the coaching profession in our department. We understand and support his decision to step away at the end of the season. We thank him for his tremendous contributions to our program, university, and state. Yeah, I don't think it gives like a specific reason on why he wants to step down, but it's probably just because he's maybe burnt out, or maybe he wants to spend more time with his family, or heaven knows. I don't think it has something to do with health. Otherwise, this would have been broken a little bit longer ago. But this is kind of tough news for Minnesota, but I feel I hope for Minnesota's sake, they play really good down the stretch, just because I think them sending Hugh McCutcheon off with a memorable championship would be quite something. So for me, I think this is obviously going to be some getting used to not seeing Hugh McCutcheon. Gotta keep in mind that Russ Rose, who had coached for heaven knows how long, who was the longest tenured coach at a university, being Penn State, he stepped down after all those seasons, and now there's been a changing of the guard in terms of Penn State. So it's kind of not surprising, because now that Russ Rose's stepping down might have created a domino effect, but it's just it's taxing being a coach. And just when you think you're out of the regular season, just when you think NCAA women's volleyball season's done, you got to continue to do recruits, you got to basically scout, and then you got spring ball, and then you have off-season training, and then you've got summer training, and then reporting to summer camp or training camp, and then eventually you have the whole cycle begins again with fall season, with the regular season becoming in effect again. So I understand that I'm no coach, obviously, but I understand that a coach has to deal with a lot of things, especially when it comes to like board meetings and coaches meetings throughout the conference, and then, like I said, board meetings throughout the entire athletics process. If I'm wrong, do let me know and do let me have it. You could just correct me and say, oh my God, this isn't true, but that's pretty much what I imagine what a coach has to do on a daily basis in terms of not just volleyball, but in terms of like any sport. I'm pretty sure coaching is no easy feat, and being a coach can sometimes take you away from your family, especially since you're having to travel quite a bit. Unless, of course, you're basically the kids just basically like follow you around. The kids and the wife obviously follow you around, or your loved one. But either way, that's pretty much the news on Hugh McCutcheon. I definitely think this is big news right here, and it is going to be, we're losing, okay, I wouldn't say we're losing, but we have to say farewell to another legend in the Big Ten, and this partially makes me want to see Minnesota win it all, but Minnesota's had their up and down season. I hope it's not anything personal. I hope it's not like Hugh McCutcheon getting the boot. Again, the whole press release didn't say Hugh McCutcheon is stepping down because he wants to spend time with his family, because he got in trouble. There's nothing that says that. There's no reason why he is stepping down. As we welcomed Marcus Losgreat in the live chat room of Spreaker. He says, what up, doe? Thank you for tuning in, Marcus, or popping in the chat room. If you're listening live on Spreaker and you have time, you could definitely make a Spreaker account and then join the chat room. Again, this show mainly goes live every Monday. This week is a little bit of an exception just because I had to go live at 3 p.m., but primarily this show goes live at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then next week, I guess I should throw this out there, Set Point will be going live on Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, just because next week I don't think Chi-Town Weekly, which shall be coming up later on in the day, will be going live with the show. But anyway, back to the volleyball action. So, yeah, I'm no Minnesota fan, but I do have a lot of respect for Hugh McCutcheon. He's a fantastic coach, and I wish him the best come retirement or come the end of the season where he goes wherever he wants to go. So, hats off to you on a great coaching career, Hugh McCutcheon, and I wish you the best. So that is going to do it for a little bit of NCAA women's volleyball news. So on Saturday, I had the honor of attending Long Beach State's women's volleyball match against UC Irvine. It was basically to honor Cindy Masner, the former athletic director for Long Beach State, just because I thought it would be a great idea for me to attend, and I was like, let's do it. So, overall, it was a great match, and I'm glad I did not... I'm glad I was able to attend. I'm glad I didn't miss it for the world. So, I like Long Beach State's the night for them to have honored Cindy Masner. So that made me happy, and she did a lot of great work back when she was the athletic director at Long Beach State. And I wish her the best in retirement, just because I didn't even know who she was. And I'm embarrassed to say that. I'm sorry to all Long Beach State fans. Feel free to throw your tomatoes at me. But as for the match itself, it did go 5. As Long Beach, it was tight early on in the first set, but then Long Beach State started to pick up steam and just pull away from UC Irvine from that first set, 25-21. Second set, Long Beach State led for the most part, but then Irvine came back, and then Long Beach State eventually was able to sneak away with that second set, 27-25. It took 4 set points for Long Beach State to win, but they were able to pull out the win, which made me happy, which made all Long Beach State fans happy. And then at that point, Long Beach State had won 8 straight sets over UC Irvine in the pyramid, dating back to 2019. So it was basically something. I wasn't too surprised. I won't say that it was. I wouldn't say it was a bad thing. It's not because UC Irvine wasn't trying. Like, they were trying, but it's just that Long Beach State had always gotten the better of them in the pyramid. And I know it's just only 8 straight sets compared to the 10 straight matches that UC Santa Barbara has lost in the pyramid. But as for the third set, UC Irvine finally got together. They built an early lead, and they didn't really relinquish it. I mean, there were a couple lead changes here and there, but overall, UC Irvine flexed its muscle. Their blocking was good. Joy Ume was phenomenal. Keep in mind, she's only 5'8", and she's able to just jump like a freaking pogo stick. And she has a wicked cannon for an arm. And then Onye Ofobu was straight up amazing in the middle. She also got to play a little left and right side. So Onye Ofobu was straight up phenomenal. UC Irvine eventually took the third set, 25-21, and at that point, the whole certain number of sets they've won over UC Irvine in the pyramid was snapped. Then the fourth set, UC Irvine got off to a hot start, and they never trailed. There were no ties. Long Beach State tried to make a little bit of a push late in that fourth set, but then UC Irvine just slammed the door on them. Eventually, Irvine won the fourth set, 25-22. And then it was basically going to 5 sets. So in the fifth set, Long Beach State jumped out to an early lead. They led 6-2. Irvine eventually came back to take the lead at 7-6. And then Long Beach came back, led 8-7 at the side change. It was just back and forth. And eventually Long Beach State was up 11-8. And it looked like they were out of the woods. But then, actually it was 12-8. And then Irvine scores 3 straight points. They're within 1. But then Long Beach State scores the next 2. They're at match point. But then Irvine managed to save a match point. But then Callie Schwarzenbach knocked in a kill in the middle as Long Beach State eventually took the fifth set 15-12, taking the match. It was a very great matchup between Irvine and Long Beach. This was the black and blue rivalry, as Long Beach State wears black while Irvine wears blue. Long Beach State was led by Morgan Chacon, who had 17 kills, while Katie Kennedy had 15 kills. Jalen Jordan had 13 kills, and Callie Schwarzenbach added 9 kills. She was kind of the most efficient hitter of the offense in terms of Long Beach State, as she had a hitting percentage of .421. I know Zayna Meyer had a hitting percentage of .714, but she's mainly the setter. She doesn't really get kills. Obviously, she had 6 kills, but she doesn't really, she's not a primary hitter. She's the one setting the offense. And then Cameron Bacon obviously had not obviously, but she had 7 kills, and she had a hitting percentage of .400. As a team, Long Beach State hit .217, which is not really their average hitting percentage, but this was a defensive battle. Both these teams had 80-plus digs, as Long Beach State had 87 and Irvine had 84. Long Beach State outblocked Irvine 15-9, which I thought was quite good. That was what really swung the momentum from Irvine. The blocking eventually picked up, primarily in I think it was second and fifth set, if I'm not mistaken. Dylan De La Cruz had 25 digs, while Zayna Meyer had 17 digs. Jalen Jordan had 13 digs, while Morgan Chacon added 11 digs. And then also Savannah Chacon, Morgan's sister, had 11 digs too. So quite a good night for Long Beach State in terms of its offense and defense. Tyler Hildebrand said the team's defense was much better than it was, I think, last week or something, but it's starting to improve. Meanwhile, for UC Irvine, they were led by Onye Ofobu and Joy Ume, who both had 18 kills. Emma Spint chipped in 8 kills, and Keani Stanton added 6 kills in the middle. As a team, Irvine hit 146. Their hitting got better as the match... Well, it kind of got better, as they started out hitting 207. That dipped to 132, rose up to 278. That dipped to 167 despite not trailing. And then it went all the way down to negative 62 in the fifth set. Meanwhile, Long Beach State's hitting consisted of hitting 333 in set 1, then dropping to 205 in set 2. It rose to 250, surprisingly enough, even though they had the same number of kills and errors. Then it dipped down to 222, and then it fell to 88, even though they only had 8 kills. Remember, set 5 is a race to 15 points. You have to win by 2. So, back to UC Irvine and its statistics. They ran a 6-2 offense, as Kelly Negron had 28 assists, while Indy DeSmet had 23. In terms of their digs, Campbell Jensen led that category with 21 digs. DeSmet had 13 digs. Negron had 12 digs. And Spint and Mariana Bertolone each had 9 digs. So, Irvine has definitely improved. They're definitely not a bad team. They're a good team. Ashley Hain has that team going in the correct direction, and it shows in their record. Unfortunately, they have been snake bitten when it comes to 5-set matches. I know they lost to Santa Barbara a couple weeks ago, where they should not have lost that one. I'm just gonna throw that out there. They did not lose. They should not have lost that one. And then they all obviously lost to Hawaii, but that's Hawaii. And then they also lost to UC Davis. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say they lost that one in 5 as well, as that was just probably another case of they didn't play bad, but they could have played a little bit better. Like, they're 11-7, and they're 4-4 in conference. Like, you look at their record, their only bad loss was to Irvine, which, again, they had to play at Hawaii, and that's a very tough place to play at. But like I said, their 3 losses in conference play are to Santa Barbara, Davis, and Long Beach State, all of which were in 5 sets. So you look at UC Irvine realistically, they're a few plays away from possibly being 7-1 instead of being 4-4. But you could say the same thing for UC San Diego. UC San Diego, I want to say, has like 1 or 2 conference wins, as most of their losses have been 5-set losses. including the Long Beach State this past Friday, where they actually had three match points, and then they allowed Long Beach State to score the next 5 points, and then they lost at their own home court, which is an embarrassing way to lose. Okay, not embarrassing, but a really tough way to lose. But overall, the Big West Conference, it just goes to show that there's a lot of... It's a game of, like, inches. Like, if you make one fatal mistake, you're done. And I could also say this. I can go as far as to say that Hawaii also is not even safe from this, because they actually lost this past weekend to Cal Poly in 4 sets at Cal Poly. But this goes back to what I said last week, where I said Cal Poly is primarily a good home team. And I told you all to keep an eye on that Cal Poly-Hawaii match. I'm not surprised Cal Poly pulled off that win. And then the night before, Hawaii narrowly escaped against Bakersfield in 5 sets. So you look at Hawaii, they had to deal with fatigue. They probably had to deal with fatigue from that 5-set match. They had to go to another loud and spirited environment in Cal Poly. Cal Poly is much better than it once was in non-conference play. Like, this Big West Conference is absolutely big time. And I actually caught up with Campbell Jensen of UC Irvine following her team's loss to Long Beach State.
All right, Campbell. Obviously, this was a thriller of a match. Unfortunately, fell short. What were some positives that you could take away from this match going into the rest of conference play? Yeah?
I think being able to come back after being down both sets showed that we had a lot of fight and a lot of urgency. And I think it's a good learning lesson, and that we're going to be pushing all the rest of the teams that we play later on.
And then in that 5th set, you were down, 6-2, and then you managed to climb your way back. You eventually got tied, and you had them a little bit of in a panic mode. Like, what did you all basically say when you were down at that point, and how were you all able to, climb back?
We decided to stay composed, but also we all really wanted it, and we didn't really have to say anything. We were just all on the same page.
Oni,
yeah.
Oni, as well as Ume were also key contributors for your hit for all the hitting. What can you say about your offense and how it was basically just going fearless against their block?
Yeah, we decided to be the aggressors. We wanted to push it to them, and that's exactly what our offense does.
And then you being the libero, obviously, is this your first week back, or is this your second week back after the UCSB game?
Second.
Okay. Well, how does it feel to be back onto the court?
It's really exciting. I love being on the court.
And then, who's their next game?
We will be playing Cal Poly and Bakersfield next week at home.
Okay. So you're back at the Bren, and you'll be playing Cal Poly and Bakersfield. Obviously, Bakersfield nearly pulled off the win over Hawaii, and Cal Poly did beat Hawaii. But what's it going to take to beat both those teams?
It's just going to take a fight, just the way we fought tonight. But we're going to be more composed. We're going to fight sooner in that match, and when we all want it, we'll get it.
And was there anyone else that stood out to you all today?
Bailey and Skook, they went out there and they killed it. We really needed them.
So that was my post-game interview with Campbell Jensen, the libero for UC Irvine. Unfortunately, I could not get an interview with the head coach, Ashley Hain, as she had to basically talk to a couple of her players following the match. It probably wasn't anything big, but I didn't make too big of a fuss about it. So I had to get to the post-game press conference when it came to Long Beach State. I actually ran a little late trying to get there, but it is what it is. Obviously, it was a tough loss for Irvine. Like I said, this is a team that is possibly a few plays away from being 7-1 in conference, and that would be huge right there. Imagine Irvine 7-1. They're probably the ones atop the standings with Hawaii and Cal Poly, and not Santa Barbara. Not that I'm trying to take anything away from Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara really earned that one in the first week of Big West Conference play, but overall, the Big West Conference is basically a game of inches when it comes to these conference matches. And if you're having to go 5, that's probably the new norm, because all these teams are going to be extremely competitive, including Bakersfield. Bakersfield, they got their few first wins out out of the way as they were able to defeat UC Riverside and Davis. As, again, it was quite impressive to see that they nearly beat Hawaii. So, overall, for the Big West Conference, it's going to be a fun conference, and I'm going to say I would not be surprised if the conference champion had 3 or more losses. It just goes to show that this conference is going to be very entertaining. And something I did not know about the Big West Conference is that all of the coaches, or a majority of the coaches in the Big West Conference, are all setters. This was courtesy of Tyler. I think it was Tyler Hildebrand. He said this, but no, it was Rob Aspero. He told me and Tyler Hildebrand this. He was like, I was just very surprised. I'm like, most of the setters, most of the Big West coaches are former setters, which I was very flabbergasted by it. So I could not believe it. It's I feel it's quite coincidental, but setter is the most important position in terms of volleyball. It's the toughest position as well. So, yeah, that's kind of your little Snapple fun fact about the Big West Conference. As we welcome Mike Pat in the chat room, he says, "Good day, Teran. Thank you for joining me, Mike. I appreciate it." So overall, it was an entertaining match that I just attended, and unfortunately, there won't be any matches this week. Well, okay, not this week, but not at the Pyramid, just because Long Beach State is heading down to UC Riverside and to UC Davis. Davis is all the way up in NorCal, and then Riverside is, I wouldn't say it's not out of my distance, but I basically would have to make like certain arrangements to get there and to be part of the media. But overall, that's going to basically do it for my night on Saturday. I will be back covering Long Beach State women's volleyball on not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday when they play Cal Poly. That could probably be a big-time matchup right there. And again, the Big West Conference, every team has at least one conference loss. So even the teams with like multiple conference losses could see their way back into the conference. Because looking at the Big West standings in terms of women's volleyball, like I said, Hawaii, Cal Poly, and UC Santa Barbara, they're all 7-1 in conference. And Cal Poly is probably the hotter of the teams, just because they came into conference play with only 3 wins, but they had played some competitive games. They nearly beat Washington. They took Pepperdine to the distance. But overall, Cal Poly has really come alive, and I think they're probably the most underrated. And Mike Pat says, did FSU win it all, or Florida State win it all? Unfortunately, Florida State had themselves a little bit of a tumble. They lost to a fellow DMV school in Virginia, which I don't know how you feel about that, but that is a tough one right there. I don't think it's a bad loss, but they lost in 5 sets. I expected them to win that one. They also lost to Pitt, which was another good team. I think Florida State kind of had a little bit of a tumble right there. They do get, what's their face-off? Virginia again. I want to say they get him again. No, they don't get him again. My apologies. But they get Virginia Tech, their little sister, I guess, on Friday, and then they get Wake Forest on Sunday. So they kind of had a little bit of a bumpy road in terms of this past weekend. Virginia is not a bad team, and Pitt is definitely good. But back to the Big West Conference, I am definitely going to be intrigued to see what's going to transpire this weekend, because this weekend we actually have 2 big-time matchups. Well, okay, big time is a little bit of a loose word I should use for one of the matches, but I'll get into those a little bit later. But I will say that Cal Poly plays at Irvine, as you heard in my interview, and I will be intrigued to see how Irvine does against the Mustangs. I want to say Irvine has not lost, or they've lost only once or twice in the Bren Event Center. They have only lost once, and that was to UC Santa Barbara, which, again, they probably could have won. They definitely could have won that one. It's just that getting reverse swept is not it's not fun by any means. And then that fifth set, everything kind of just unraveled. So overall, I'm really going to be interested to see how Irvine does against Cal Poly, and Irvine is still very much in this conference. Their path to winning the Big West Conference is a tough one, and you got to remember that there is no conference tournament. However, a win streak of whether it's long or whether a long win streak could possibly have them back in this thing. And same for Long Beach State. Long Beach State is nowhere near out of it just because they're 5-3. They're only 2 games back of Cal Poly, Santa Barbara, and Hawaii. And remember, they actually have a win over Santa Barbara. They're only 2 out of their 3 losses were to Hawaii and Cal Poly, which I guess they just got pregame jitters when it came to that Cal Poly loss. And then the Hawaii matchup was kind of, I wouldn't say a lost cause, but it was basically they were facing the bigger team that night. And then there are some other good teams in the conference. Cal State Fullerton is not a team to be slept on. UC San Diego, like I said, that team is probably the most snake-bitten in terms of 5-set matches within the conference. They did just sweep Cal State Fullerton, which I thought was impressive. But, again, 4 of their 5 conference losses are basically 5-set losses. The only match they didn't lose in 5-2 was to Hawaii, which they actually lost that one in 4, which I thought was impressive. So overall, there's no easy night in the Big West Conference, and every team in that conference has at least 2 wins, including UC Riverside and Bakersfield and Northridge. So it's just going to be a battle overall in the Big West Conference. And this kind of makes me wish that there was a tournament. It's just that there's how many teams? There's 2 carry the 3 minus 4. Okay, that's a bad joke. 11 teams in the Big West Conference. So it would basically either be the top 8 teams advance or the top 6 teams advance. I don't think that would be fair for everybody. And I don't think every team can advance. But either way, and I don't think there would be enough room to fit in a conference tournament. They'd either have to have conference play start a week earlier and then have a conference tournament at the final week of the season, or they just have to but that would also include limiting non-conference games, if that makes sense. But either way, that's going to basically do it for the Big West discussion and for my night at Long Beach State as they took on UC Irvine. We'll take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we will have the rest of the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 8 recap, and we'll have the Week 9 preview, and I'll be discussing the CIF Southern Section Girls Volleyball Division 1 playoffs. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our shows on IE Sports Radio. Check out the Show That Never Sleeps with Harrison Glazer and Pierre Moss every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check out Sin City Sports with Cale Henderson every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. And also, coming up at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern, is Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Karnick. He has a special surprise for everybody in the first part of the show, and I'm interested to see what that surprise will be. So let's get on into segment number 2 of Set Point. So for segment number 2, we're going to be discussing some high school girls volleyball, particularly CIF Southern Section. And I'm only going to limit it to Division 1. I was going to also discuss Division 2, especially have a guest on to help me break down some of the teams in Division 2. But I think that would just be a little too much, and I'll probably discuss Division 2 once the finals week is here, or semifinals week is here. But for purposes of the show and how I don't want to have another near 2-hour long show, I will just break down Division 1. So in the past, there would normally be the Division 1 bracket and the Division 2 bracket would basically be one big umbrella. At the end of the season, the selection committee would put the top X amount of teams into Division 1 while leaving the rest of the teams on the outside looking in and putting them in Division 2. And that's kind of the fairest deal out there, just because you don't want to have bad mismatches in the first round. Why have a 32-team bracket with, one of the best teams in the nation versus one of the not-so-best teams in the nation? And why not have a bracket for teams that can possibly win it? So, basically, the top X amount of teams go to the Division I bracket. Back in 2018, it was the top 16 teams. Then that thinned down to top 12 teams back in 2019. Then in 2021, last season, it was basically the top 12 teams as again. But this time they've thinned it down to only 8 teams. Now you're probably thinking, well, it's just going to be a quarterfinal bracket, right? Wrong. The CIF Southern Section Committee actually changed that format as well. So instead of having a bracket play, you're just going to have they're actually implying pool play. So I actually talked to my buddy Rob Aspero at the UC Irvine Long Beach State game about this. He was actually perplexed about this. He said they're going international play. So basically how the pool play works is basically 8 teams, 4 teams are going to be put in each pool. So there's going to be Pool A versus Pool B, and whoever has the best record in each pool advances to the finals, which will be held at Cerritos College. Now, if there's a tiebreaker, or if there's a tie atop pool play, then the tiebreaker, I think it goes either head to head or it goes to the lower seed. Now, I'm very surprised at why they would include that rule. The lower seed gets that wins the tiebreaker. But I guess that's kind of the benefit of being the lower seed, just because the lower seed has a bad disadvantage of being on the road for every match. Yes, it's every match, but it's not going to be like in one whole week. It's going to be the Division I playoffs start on Wednesday, this Wednesday. As of this recording, this is going to be Monday. And then the second pool play match is next Tuesday, the 25th. And then the 29th, which is a Saturday of October, that's going to be the final pool play match. And then once everything is all said and done, it basically takes all the tiebreakers and all the records, and then whoever has the best record, or whoever's the top 2 team, or the top team in each pool, they go on to the final. The good thing about the Division I bracket is, you're probably wondering, well, what's the point of having this sort of playoffs when all the teams that are lowly seeded are probably going to be muscled by the top teams? Well, every team in this division, in the CIF Southern Section Division I bracket, will automatically qualify for state. So no matter what happens, even if a team goes 0-3 in a tournament, they automatically qualify for the CIF state playoffs. Depending on how they do in this tournament, and depending on their strength of schedule and what their results were in of their said schedule, depends on what division they go to. And CIF state bracket will be for another day. But for right now, the Southern Section teams in the Division I bracket. So they consist of, we'll start with Pool A. The top seed is Miracosta, which, that's no surprise. They are probably the best team in the Southern Section this season. And what I mean by the Southern Section is, I mean by like Orange County and LA County. This does not include San Diego or anything else. So it's just like Orange County, Los Angeles County teams, Inland Empire. So Miracosta is the number 1 seed. Mater Dei, which is basically good at every sport, is the 4 seed. Lakewood is the 5 seed, and Palos Verdes is the 8 seed. So it basically goes, in day 1 of pool play, it goes 1 versus 5, as well as 4 versus 8. Day 2 of pool play, or the second round of pool play, will consist of 1 versus 8, I want to say. It's 1 versus 8, and then 4 versus 5. And then the final round of pool play will consist of 1 versus 4, and then 5 versus 8. Miracosta has the clear-cut advantage, as they have home court advantage throughout the entirety of the pool play bracket, just because they have not really lost to a whole lot of teams. Some of their losses came in the early portion of the season, as they lost to Sierra Canyon in the Kang tournament back in August, and they also lost to Mater Dei back in August, but they were not at full strength at the time. I saw that matchup, and they were without a few players due to coaches' decisions. I'm not going to get into what those decisions were, but there's your 4-1-1. And then Mater Dei, they've been to the CIF Southern Section Division I finals for the past 9 seasons. And you got to give credit to their head coach, Dan Odell. He has done an outstanding job with that program, and it's just amazing how much longevity this program has in terms of making the Division I final. Keep in mind, it's the Division I final. This isn't like anything below that. Like, it's all been in the highest division in terms of the Southern section. Lakewood is also a good team. I feel I've seen them a couple times. They have some scrappy athletes, and they have a very good head coach. Coach Mike Wadley has coached there for 25 seasons. That is a huge testament because that's basically a quarter of a decade. And for him to have such great longevity with that program speaks to high volumes of how much of a great job he's done. I think he's also the part-time athletic director for Lakewood, but I'm not sure. And then lastly, it's the 8th seed is Palos Verdes. Now, Palos Verdes has kind of been under the radar. Okay, I wouldn't say under the radar, but they've been underrated. They've been kind of flying under the radar. They've had their up and down season. They did get second in Miracosta's league, the Bay League, but unfortunately they are the 8th seed and they have themselves quite the huge disadvantage considering they are going to be on the road for every match in the Southern Section playoffs. But in the end, they do have their team is pretty much their team from last year, except more experience. So I think Palos Verdes has a good advantage to that. Like, if they had last year's team in Division I, then they'd probably be in shark-infested waters. And then as for Pool B, that will consist of Sierra Canyon as the 2 seed, Marymount of Los Angeles as the 3 seed, Newport Harbor as the 6 seed, and Huntington Beach as the 7 seed. So, pool play format for Pool B will consist of 2 versus 6, which will mean Sierra Canyon and Newport Harbor play one another on Wednesday, and then Sierra Canyon and Huntington Beach play that same day, and then next Tuesday, Sierra Canyon plays Huntington Beach at Sierra Canyon, and then Marymount plays Newport Harbor that same day. So it'll be 2 versus 7, and then 3 versus 6. And then the final day of pool play will be 3 versus 2, Marymount at Sierra Canyon. And yes, this is the same Sierra Canyon that has LeBron James' son at the school. And then 7 versus 6 will be Huntington Beach versus Newport Harbor at Newport Harbor. So for breaking down these teams, Sierra Canyon, okay, this is a very good team right here. This team has kind of had its ups and downs. It kind of I wouldn't say it underachieved, but I thought it had its moments at Durango, but then it kind of fell apart in the top 8. They finished runner-up in the Ann King tournament, but that was all the way back in August. And I want to say they partook in the the Nike Tournament of Champions in Arizona. And they didn't do too bad. I think they placed top 8 in that tournament. The one thing about Sierra Canyon is that they actually changed leagues. They were in the Gold Coast League, but now they are in the Mission League with Marymount and a few other tough teams like Harvard Westlake and Alamany. But for Sierra Canyon, they have a lot of really good players on their teams. I think they have one girl that transferred from Flower Mound of Texas. They have a few other players that are going to college, like Pitt, and I don't remember the other colleges, but they have some studs on their team. Like, that team is definitely no joke. As for the 3 seed Marymount, this is last year's Southern Section champion in Division I. This was last year's everything champion. They won every tournament. They won every match. They didn't have a match that went past 4 sets. In other words, they did not have a match that went to 15. Even in their tournament, they were juggernauts. That's what I'm going to say. Marymount obviously lost a lot of talent to graduation, but they are still no joke. They are the legit real deal. And them playing in the same league as Sierra Canyon, that is a benefit just because now they get to see them a third time and they'll get to see what Sierra Canyon has in store. Yes, they're not going to have to travel too far, but honestly, it's going to be a great matchup between those two. It's going to come down to these two. Not that I'm saying that the other two in Pool B aren't anything compared to those two, but Marymount is still the dominant team, one of the dominant teams in this division. They just lost a lot to graduation. They're kind of picking up the pieces. They're trying to reload instead of rebuild. And then for Newport Harbor, I cover this team a lot. I'm going to sound biased when I say this. They have come alive. I am very impressed by how they've played. I think everyone and their moms said that Huntington Beach, which is right below them in the seeding, was going to win their league. And if I were a casual and I had no bias, I'd probably say the same thing. But Newport Harbor really has come a long way. Here's my thing for Newport Harbor. They've been battle-tested quite a bit. The past 2 weeks, they've had to play a lot of volleyball. They played in 2 tournaments, both of which were kind of grueling. They faced stiff competition, and fatigue kind of caught up to them. But at the end of the day, the fatigue meant, okay, I wouldn't say it didn't mean anything, but those grueling matches from the past 2 weeks helped them in their final league game against Huntington Beach, where they won that one and wound up winning the whole league. And because of beating Huntington Beach in the final league game, they're now in Division 1 as opposed to being in Division 2. So it's a great opportunity for this Newport Harbor team. This is a team that lost a lot of players to graduation, as they only returned 4 players from last year's team that had an extended playoff run in the state championship. But aside from that, they've actually been quite a good tournament team. They finished in the top 8 in every single tournament. They finished top 8 in Dave Mo's, which I think is one of the more tougher tournaments out there. They finished 3rd in Santa Barbara, which I think that's impressive. I think the last time they finished top 4 in that tournament was 2009, when they wound up winning it all, in terms of like CIF and state. And then also they finished top 8 in the Redondo Power Classic, which it may not be. It's kind of underwhelming at first when you look at it, but when you realize that Newport Harbor had to battle lots of fatigue, and then they also had to battle some of these other teams, and they just narrowly lost to Torrey Pines in the quarterfinals. I think it's still a good testament. And to finish top 8 in all of their tournaments is no easy feat. Just because, again, you're having to deal with fatigue, and then on the second day, it's basically win or go home, depending on what format you use. Or play in consolation. And then lastly, we have Huntington Beach. Now, everyone was so high on Huntington Beach come this season. Last year, they made it to the Division II finals, and I, too, had a lot of high hopes for Huntington Beach. Some were calling Huntington Beach a sleeper pick. I don't think they're a sleeper pick. I think this team is definitely a good team. The thing is that they kind of fell apart come league play. Now, this is not to bash Huntington Beach. I did not think they were going to have a bad showing against Newport Harbor. Like, the first time these two teams played, they actually met in a tournament, and then Huntington Beach narrowly won in 2 out of 3 sets. Well, it was the best 2 out of 3 format, but they won both sets 25-23. Then when the two met in league at Huntington Beach High School, Newport Harbor got punched in the mouth in the first set, but then they wound up winning the next 3 sets, even though set 2 was kind of a narrow bypass. And then the last league matchup between Newport Harbor and Huntington Beach, Newport Harbor swept them, though the first 2 sets were very close. So overall, Huntington Beach is a good team. There's no doubt about it. I just think that they just had a little bit of tough luck against Newport Harbor in league. But I'm not trying to say that Newport Harbor didn't deserve to win the league title in the Surf League. It's just that I think everyone was so high on Huntington Beach going into this season with the amount of returning players that they had from last year's team come back. And then they have a lot of young talent on their team that's still developing and that's still becoming a quite dynamite type of player for that team. But overall, Huntington Beach they're probably a dark horse to win this win pool play, let alone win the Division I bracket. But this is not a team that anyone should be sleeping on. Alright, so I did promise everybody I would make my prediction to win the CIF Southern Section Division, or at least to have my finals. I'm going to make a finals pick, just because I don't want to jinx anybody, and knowing my luck, I'm probably going to be incredibly wrong. But my pick for the CIF Southern Section Division I Finals in girls volleyball will be Miracosta versus Marymount. Miracosta and Marymount are both making it to the final. Here's why. First of all, Miracosta is just super good. Charlie Furbringer is absolutely phenomenal. Drew Wright is absolutely phenomenal. And yes, she's going to Princeton, not anywhere else. And then Miracosta just has a great returning cast from last year's team. And I think this Miracosta team, if there's ever a year to win CIF in the Southern Section, it's right here and there. Because they are a storied program. They've won 14 CIF Southern Section championships. They're basically the Alabama of high school girls volleyball. I think that's the great comparison that everyone could use. And then, yeah, I think that's a good comparison. And then Marymount, they're the reigning champions. I really think Marymount does have quite enough to make it to the final. I think they have just a little bit of enough, especially with the playoff experience that they have. I just think that maybe Sierra Canyon's players won't have that playoff experience that they had last year. I mean, obviously Sierra Canyon made it out of the first round, but they got mopped up by Mater Dei. Not that I'm bashing them or anything, but I'm just saying that Marymount does have a good chunk of players from last year. It's not as big as it was last year, and they obviously have a veteran head coach who has guided them to 10 CIF Southern Section championships. So overall, I feel it's gonna be Marymount versus Miracosta. I'm not gonna give my finals prediction, and I'm probably going to be wrong, but that's my finals pick. I'm not trying to degrade the other teams, but I'm just saying Marymount is just so freaking good. They have quite a number of Division I volleyball commits. And then, what's their face? Marymount, they're the reigning champion. You can't sleep on them. But good luck to all 8 teams in the Division I bracket. It's going to be fun times. Especially if you're a volleyball fan, a high school volleyball fan in California. Alright, now let's move on from that and move on to the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 8 recap. So, we'll start off with my team of the week. So my team of the week, if you all didn't see on Twitter, is none other than Maryland. So Maryland last week, they pulled off 2 big road wins in 3 sets, mind you. As we welcome Adam Kark in the chat room. You're just in time, Adam. I'm recapping the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 8. As Maryland is my team of the week. They swept Northwestern last weekend. I'm sorry to say, Adam, but Northwestern women's volleyball lost to Maryland. Maryland swept them 25-22, 25-22, 25-16, as Maryland was led by Sam Sire, who had 16 kills. Layla Ivy had 10 kills. Sydney Dowler, who I think was named the Big Ten setter of the week. She had 27 assists, and she also had 8 digs. Milan Gomillion led the team in digs with 12. As a team, Maryland hit 294, and they had 9 less digs than Maryland. Or they had 9 less digs than Northwestern. But as a team, Maryland outblocked Northwestern by a whopping... Okay, that was a bad drum roll, but they outblocked them 13.5-3. Let me say that again. Maryland outblocked Northwestern 13.5-3. Yeah. Northwestern ain't winning no matchup when they're getting outblocked by 10.5. Northwestern was led by Temi Thomas Ayalara as well as Hannah Lesiak, who each had 10 kills. Catherine Randorf added 9 kills. As a team, Northwestern hit 171, but that is because Maryland blocked the living you-know-what out of them. Sienna Nordemir had 4 kills, and she added 30 assists, as well as 6 digs. Leading the dig department was Thomas, Ilara, Lesiak, and Megan Miller, who each had 8 digs apiece. So for Maryland, this was just that was basically the tip of the iceberg when it came to their upsets. Their big upset came on Sunday, yesterday, when they beat Purdue in 3 sets. And this was actually their first, their first ever, their first ever top 10 win. And Adam, I got distracted by Adam's question. Adam Karnick in the live chat room says, how does one get half a block? Basically, it is a block assist. And then basically that eventually gets added up as a block assist basically counts for 1. And then block assists are added up to 23. And then they're divided by 2. So Maryland had 23 block assists against Northwestern. 23 divided by 2 is 11.5 or 11.5. And then add that to the solo blocks, which is just by 1. So that basically equals 13.5. So that's kind of how it's divided in terms of block assists and solo blocks. But back to Maryland sweeping Purdue. I was looking at this matchup. I'm like, oh my goodness. Maryland actually swept Purdue. That's the crazy thing. Remember, Purdue was the home team. And they have more often than not have a lot of success in Holloway Gym. Unfortunately, Maryland did not get the script as Maryland swept Purdue 25-22, 25-19, and 25-23. Sam Sire led Maryland with 12 kills, while Layla Ivy had 10 kills. Sydney Dowler had 35 assists to go along with her 3 kills and 8 digs. Milan Gomillion had 17 digs. As a team, Maryland only hit 212, but again, they had a lot of good defensive statistics. They out-aced Purdue 6-5, and their ratio was 6 aces to 3 service errors, while Purdue's ratio was 5 service aces to 4 service errors. Maryland outdug Purdue 54-47, while they outblocked them as a team 12.5-9. So, again, Maryland, they didn't have the hitting percentage, but they had the other statistics that they excelled in. And then as for Purdue, they were led by Eva Hudson, who had 11 kills, but she had only a hitting percentage of 70, which I wouldn't say is too alarming, but considering how everyone else was, it was kind of meh. Hannah Clayton added 8 kills, and then Maddie Chin added 6 kills. Purdue only hit 115, which is no bueno. You're not going to win matches with that. Grace Balencipher added 9 assists, while Maddie Schermerhorn had 16 digs, while Megan Renner had 15 assists. So overall, it was just not Purdue's day, but you gotta give credit to Maryland. This just now goes to show that the entire Big Ten Conference has no easy matches. There is no such thing as an easy match for any Big Ten team. Like, even the best could fall down. So that is why Maryland is my team of the week. For them to pull off 2 wins on the road is quite impressive. And this Northwestern team, that win over Northwestern, that Northwestern team was receiving votes. So that's why that's why I had Maryland as my team of the week. Not just because of the Purdue win, but because they swept Northwestern at Northwestern, and they just had the statistics to just back it up. They didn't just put kill after kill after kill down. But overall, it was just a great weekend for Maryland, and I did not know this about Maryland, and this was actually courtesy of Emily Eamon of the Big Ten Network, or All Things Big Ten Sports. She basically had this little nugget. She said, all season I've been waiting to see when Maryland would get that first big win, as they've been the best serving and blocking team in all of the Big Ten in terms of volleyball, and look at what they got today. So I did not know they had quite the serving talent and blocking talent. Like, the blocking, it definitely was evident. But the serving part, you would think that honor would go to, like, Wisconsin or Nebraska. But Maryland, man, it just means that Maryland is a team to watch for, and no team is safe from anybody. So, as well as the other upsets, we have a lot of upsets to go over in terms of the other conferences. So we'll start off on Friday. We had LMU beating Pepperdine in the PCH Cup in 4 sets. Keep in mind, Pepperdine, I want to say, was like number 20 in this matchup, but then LMU, I think that is the clear 4th best team in the West Coast Conference, as LMU beat Pepperdine 25-22, 20-25, 25-23, and 25-22. LMU was led by Carrie Gaisberger, who had 14 kills. Jacqueline Moore and Phoebe Awalier each had 10 kills, and Rose Booth and Audrey Klemp had 9 and 8 kills. As a team, LMU only hit 203, but here's what I think they excelled in the most. They excelled in all of pretty much every other stat. They had 52 digs compared to Pepperdine's 39. Sam Hastings led the way with 18 digs, while Ella Boley had 11. LMU outblocked Pepperdine 11-8, and they out-aced Pepperdine 7-1. Now here's where it also gets crazy. Pepperdine had 15 service errors compared to LMU's 11. That's still a bad service ace to service error ratio for Pepperdine, as I don't get it. Maybe it was because LMU was the home team and then Pepperdine got intimidated. Pepperdine was led by Meg Brown, who had 15 kills and a hitting percentage of .462. Emily Helmuth had 14 kills and a hitting percentage of .333. Surprisingly, I'm reading this carefully, and it looks like Pepperdine did not have Rachel Ahrens. Is it Ahrens? Ahrens. They did not have, they didn't have Rachel Ahrens, which I think that's a big reason why Pepperdine struggled, just because I don't know what her status is in terms of injury, but if she is out a little longer than when she needs to be, then that could be troublesome for the Waves, just because they need Rachel. But they do have some other talented players, such as Helmuth and Grace Chillingworth. Meg Brown is also good. We may also see Emma Ammerman step up as well. So we'll see what happens with Pepperdine going forward. Also out west, jumping to the Pac-12, we had Washington versus Utah. So Washington, I want to say, was like I'm blanking on Washington's previous rank. I actually deleted the previous rank from my phone prior to that. So, oops. Here it is. Washington was 16, and Pepperdine was indeed number 20. So, back to Utah-Washington. Washington, they were tied atop the Pac-12 standings with USC and Stanford. Utah was looking for its first big breakout win, as they started off ranked, then they fell off just because they lost to some good teams. Utah finally got its big breakout win as they swept at Utah. Sorry, I made the mistake again. 25-21, 30-28, and 25-16. Utah was led by Madeline Robinson, who had 15 kills, while Lauren Hardin added 13 kills. Utah outdug Washington 54-44, and they barely outblocked Washington as a team 8-7. The service ace ratio was decent from Utah, 6-6 compared to Washington's 4-7. The big thing was that Washington was held to only 190, and then I also did hear that one of Washington's players was out. I don't know which player, but I did hear that Washington's right side or opposite is out for a while. But it also did not help that Utah hit 349 on the night, which was very impressive. They didn't even have a single hitting error in that third set. Washington was led by Claire Hoffman, who had 12 kills. Imani Bush added 11 kills, and then Maren Grote chipped in 8 kills. LMA Powell led the team in digs with 13 while adding 36 assists and 3 kills, while Kate Morin added 11 digs. As a team, Washington hit 190, which is not what Washington wanted to see. Even though they did hit 219 in that third set, that was the best they hit. They hit below 200 in the first 2 sets. And that second set was kind of what cost the Huskies. And now they've fallen out of first place, which is no bueno. But Washington did bounce back on Sunday when they beat Colorado, which that's a good win, winning at Colorado. Staying in the Pac-12, we had USC defeating Oregon. Oregon was actually number 12 at the time, and then USC had other plans to knock them off their high horse. As I said it last week, if USC wins this matchup, they're in good. They could be putting themselves in a position to possibly win the Pac-12. It's a little early to say that, but Oregon did fall to USC on Friday. USC won the first set 25-21. The rest of the sets went 23-25 Oregon, 25-22 USC, and then 25-19 USC. The Trojans were led by Skylar Fields, who had 27 kills. She was actually named the AVCA Player of the Week last week, which she definitely deserves. And she had a hitting percentage of 400. She was also the top player of the night. Jordan Wilson added 12 kills, while Amelia Vesca added 11 kills. As a team, USC hit 361, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of their stats. They outdug Oregon 55-49. They held Oregon's top player, Brooke Nunaviller, to only 13 kills, even though she hit 364. And they limited their service errors, as they only had 12 service errors compared to Oregon's 18. And they outblocked them by 1. Oregon was led by Mimi Collier, who's having an outstanding freshman year for Oregon, as she had 20 kills. Nunaviller, like I said, she had 13 kills. Gloria Mutiri added 10 kills. As a team, Oregon hit 333, which is not bad. It just went to show that when it came down to it, USC just had a little bit more firepower, especially when USC is hitting 500 in that fourth set. Nunaviller also added 17 digs, while Georgia Murphy added 16 digs. Elise Ferreira added 50 assists, but unfortunately it was not enough, as Oregon was bested on the road. They did bounce back on Sunday against UCLA, but they had to win that one in 5. UCLA really made them sweat in that set, or in that match, as UCLA, despite them not having their better teams, they're looking good. They looked good in that match. And it wasn't just Charity Looper, it was just other players as well. And then Mike Seeley was coaching really well. Also on Friday, we had, jumping over back east, we had Marquette taking on Creighton at the DJ Sokol Arena. So this one was quite the interesting matchup. Marquette was actually the favorite, as they were actually number 18 last week, while Creighton was number 21. Don't tell them this. Throw out the statistics, though. Throw out the rankings, throw out the statistics. Marquette and Creighton is basically all bets off. Marquette took the first 2 sets 25-21, 25-22. But then set 3, Creighton came alive. They won it 25-19. And then the rest of the way, there were no ties and no lead changes, as Creighton just gave Marquette the work. They won the 4th set 25-16 and won the 5th set 15-8, as Creighton remains undefeated in Big East Conference play. Creighton was led by Nora Siss, who had 21 kills and 11 digs. Ava Martin added 18 kills to go along with 12 digs. Kiana Schmidt and Keely Davis both had 11 kills, as Davis led the team in digs with 26. Creighton had 98 digs. That's also your stat stuffer right there. 98 digs for Creighton. Absolutely amazing. This is a digging team right here, though. Remember, they had over 100 digs when they played Florida State. As a team, Creighton hit 275 compared to Marquette's 207. Marquette was led by Aubrey Hamilton and Jenna Reitzma, who each had 13 kills. Reitzma had 17 digs, and Carly Skrabak added 28 digs. Yadahira Achante added 16 digs to go along with her 47 assists and 3 kills. And like I said, as a team, Marquette hit 207. They had 85 digs, but that's not really too comparable to Creighton's 98. And then the blocks favored Creighton 10-6, which isn't bad. Both teams had I wouldn't say the perfect service ace service error ratio, as Marquette had 3 aces and 3 service errors, while Creighton had 6 aces and 6 service errors. And then this one wasn't as big of an upset as the other ones were, but this saw Towson losing its their first CAA conference game of the season to Elon. Elon came in with a 6-10 record, and they were 3-3. But Elon, not Elon Musk, managed to beat them in 5 sets. They won the first 2 sets by scores of 25-21. Towson won the third set 25-21. Won the fourth set 25-18, and Elon nearly escaped in the 5th set, winning 16-14. Elon was led by Leah Daniel, who had 16 kills, while Sydney Love added 12 kills. Haley Clark chipped in 9 kills, as Elon only hit 177. They had 62 digs, but was outdug by Towson 72. They were also outblocked 14-9, so overall, Elon didn't have the stats outside of hitting, but they really came alive in that 5th set as they forced Towson to 7 hitting errors. As Towson, they had quite the balanced attack, as Lydia Wires and Nina Kahik each had 12 kills, while Irbe Lazda, Ayinde Smith, and Victoria Barrett each had 11 kills. Towson ran at 6-2 offense, as Sarah Jordan and Katie McCracken each had 26 assists. McCracken chipped in 12 digs, while Barrett led the team in digs with 15. Rachel Hess and Faye Boko Dimu each had 14 digs. So that is that for your upsets from week number 8. So, jumping on over to my stat stuffers. So, I already mentioned the 98 digs that Creighton had. It gets a whole lot more diggier. But first, before I get into that, Claire Chausse of Louisville surpassed 1,000 kills on Sunday against Wake Forest, as she had 15 kills on the day. So, congratulations to Claire Chausse. Basically, the heartbeat of Louisville, and she definitely has a bright future depending on what she wants to do. If she wants to play professionally, awesome, but if not, then I wish her the best. Another stat stuffer, Grace Ballenscypher, she surpassed 1,000 digs, as she actually had 957 from Northern Illinois before transferring to Purdue. Currently, she had 44 digs. She has 44 digs at Purdue, but she was also able to collect the one that surpassed 1,000. I think she had it in the loss against Maryland, if not the win over Indiana. But it was quite good. But that's still quite the accomplishment for Ballenscypher. Speaking of Indiana and 1,000 plus digs, Paula Kriame surpassed 1,000 digs, as she also had a majority of her digs from Florida. Kriame had 23 digs on Sunday's 5-set win against Michigan State. So good job to Kriame. And another stat stuffer is UC Irvine and Cal State Fullerton combining for 195 digs in their 5-set matchup at UC Irvine. UC Irvine, in that match, they had 100 digs, while Fullerton had 95. So, remember when I said Creighton was a digging team? Let me introduce you to UC Irvine and Cal State Fullerton. And then some history was made this past weekend as Ashley Benson became the first Indiana women's volleyball player to be inducted into the University of Indiana Athletics Hall of Fame on Friday. In her career with the Hoosiers from 2007 all the way to 2010, Benson had 1,492 kills, which is 6th all-time at Indiana. She had a hitting percentage of .339, which is 1st all-time at Indiana. And she also had 629 blocks, which is 1st all-time at Indiana. Benson also guided Indiana to their first and only Sweet 16 appearance back in 2010. Indiana that year beat Miami of Ohio in the first round and Tennessee in the round of 32. So congratulations to Ashley Benson, and those are pretty much my stat stuffers and other notables from week number 8. Now we gotta get into the final, or not the final, the AVCA coaches poll, as we had a little bit of movement, but we didn't have too much movement. So 23 through 21 consists of Michigan at 25, Houston at 24, Western Kentucky at 23, Rice at 22, Pepperdine at 22, and then Rice at 21. 20 through 16 consists of Oregon at 20, Marquette at 19, Creighton at 18, BYU at 17, and Kentucky at 16. 15 through 14 consists of Washington at 15, Baylor at 14, Penn State at 13, Purdue at 12, and Florida at 11. 10 through 6 consists of Georgia Tech at 10, Minnesota at 9, Pitt at 8, Stanford at 7, and Ohio State at 6. 5 through 1 consists of Wisconsin at 5, San Diego at 4, Nebraska at 3, Louisville at 2, and your still number 1 team in the AVCA Women's Volleyball Division 1 Coaches Poll is Texas. So Texas did get a little bit of a battle against Baylor this past weekend, but ultimately came out on top. Houston actually beat UCF, I think it was either last week or the week before, but either way, Houston gave UCF problems, and I would not be surprised if Houston would win the AAC conference, the athletic. It's the American Athletic Conference. I'm sorry, I keep getting Conference USA and AAC mixed up, as well as the ACC. Sorry. But anyway, I also forgot to mention that BYU was upset last weekend as they lost to Pacific of all teams. The Tigers, they lost to the Pacific in 5 sets on Saturday. Unfortunately, I could not get the box score of that matchup, and all of it was just too confusing to look online. But I gotta give props to Pacific. They always pull off an upset when it comes to West Coast Conference play, as they did so last year against San Diego. Now they did so this year against BYU. It's a huge win for Pacific. They're not, obviously, I don't know if they're going to be NCAA tournament bound, considering they have to deal with Pepperdine and San Diego and BYU and heck, even LMU. But Pacific actually lost 25-10 in set 4. They went up 2-1 in the match. And then in the 4th set, BYU just straight up slaughtered them. Okay, slaughtered is a little bit of an extreme word. They basically tore them to shreds in that 4th set. And then Pacific was able to narrowly escape in that 5th set. I was just very impressed. But this is a bad loss for BYU. BYU has a big week this week. More on that later. But BYU, I'm a little concerned for you all, because you all were keeping pace with San Diego, but now you kind of fell off the wagon. Now, San Diego is all alone in first place in the West Coast Conference. And I'm trying to find some other notable matchups within this top 25. Obviously, UCF dropped out, and then we obviously had the Creighton-Marquette matchup. Kentucky handled their opponents quite well. Baylor, they split their matchups this last week. They swept Rice, which I was very surprised that Rice got swept at Rice. And then, obviously, they lost in 4 to Texas, but they're probably the best team outside of Kansas that one time to give Texas a battle in the Big 12 Conference. A team I was surprised that did make the top 25 was USC. They're knocking on that door. The Trojans really want to get into that top 25, but they have a big test on their hand this week. And that's perfect segue to get into the final portion of the segment, as we have the Week 9 matchups to watch for in the NCAA women's volleyball world. So we'll start off with the sneaky good matchups. We'll start off on Saturday. As we have Hawaii at UC Santa Barbara. I guess I should also lump Cal Poly at UC Irvine as well, but I think Hawaii at UC Santa Barbara is big just because, well, Santa Barbara is undefeated at the Thunderdome, aka UC Santa Barbara. And Hawaii just lost to Cal Poly this past weekend. So Hawaii still has another week in... They still have another week in California, as last week they were barely able to escape 1-1. But now they face a Santa Barbara team that's going to be super fired up to play them. And I'm really going to be interested to see how that matchup goes. Just because, remember, Santa Barbara has yet to lose at the Thunderdome this year. So how they'll fare against a very good opponent in Hawaii could depend on where Santa Barbara will be. Because, remember, Santa Barbara has one loss, and that is to Long Beach State, where they unfortunately could not win at the House of Horrors, with that being the Pyramid. However, Santa Barbara now has to really prove themselves against the Rainbow Wahine. And this is Hawaii's chance to prove that last week was just a blip on the radar. Because now the conference gets very interesting. And for Cal Poly, they also have to go on the road to UC Irvine. So don't be surprised if Hawaii and Cal Poly have a little bit of trouble against UC Santa Barbara and UC Irvine. Also on Saturday and on Sunday, we have number 19 Kentucky at Texas A&M. So Texas A&M has kind of had some good wins here and there. They obviously beat Western Kentucky. They're not the Texas A&M from 2019, but I'm really interested to see how they do against Kentucky. We'll see if Kentucky gets baited into the trap game, but I want to see how Texas A&M does. I want to see if they're truly contenders and not pretenders. Also, we have St. John's at number 18 Creighton. That's going to be a very fun matchup right there, as Kentucky is actually number 16. My apologies. So number 16 Kentucky at Texas A&M. Then we have St. John's at number 18 Marquette. St. John's is probably the most underrated team in the Big East. Everyone raves about Marquette and Creighton, but St. John's is the third best team in that conference. Their only two losses were to Marquette the first time around, and then I think they lost to Villanova, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, St. John's, I think I would not be surprised if Marquette had a little bit of a hangover. I expect Marquette to get off the mat and get back up and possibly get back in it when it comes to, winning their Big East Conference matches. But I feel this is kind of going to be this could be a trap game, even though they don't have an opponent that they're looking ahead to. But St. John's is not the typical run-of-the-mill team that is going to just get ran over. St. John's is going to make Creighton work for that match. And Marquette is number 19, not 18. Creighton is 18. Marquette is 19. And then on Sunday, we have Colorado at number 20, Oregon. So Colorado is forced out of their comfort zone. Obviously, they are such a good home team. They've only lost to USC and Washington. However, they have to go at Oregon to play the Ducks. So I wouldn't call Colorado out of the Pac-12 standings, especially since everyone in that conference has at least one loss. But I will say this. A win over Oregon could help their NCAA playoff or NCAA tournament chances. Now, here's the thing for Oregon. They narrowly escaped against UCLA. They lost at USC. They also lost to the Washington schools. So for Oregon, a win here and a win over Utah, which they play on Friday at Utah, it's going to be crucial. If there is ever a time for Oregon to come up big at Matthew Knight Arena, this is their time. They have to come up big, otherwise they're going to fall further and further down the top 25, and who knows, they could probably be out by next week. So, Oregon, you got a lot to prove this week. You got to prove yourself because I'm starting to see some cracks in y'all. Brooke Nunaviller is a phenomenal player, and I think Mimi Collier is making her push for Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, but even though I think Aaliyah Rubin has that. But Oregon, you got to show me that you're for real. Because now that some of these close wins are starting to look a little bit bad on your resume. We'll see, though. That's it for the sneaky good matchups. Jumping to the notable matchups, we have Utah at number 20, Oregon on Friday. Like I said, Oregon, you got a lot to prove this week. You have to basically show why you're ranked in the top 25. If you don't, then I expect, if they lose both matchups, Oregon's out of the top 25. That's my prediction. If they go 1-1, then they'll probably be in the lower 20s. They'll probably be like 24. And then if they go 2-0, they'll probably be jumping back into like the high teens. Also, in terms of notable matchups, we have number 5 Wisconsin at number 24 Michigan on Sunday. So the two teams actually faced one another this past Sunday on national television, ESPN, with Wisconsin winning in 4. Now the Badgers have to go to the other side. They have to go to the Motor City, or they have to go to the Big House, or wherever Michigan plays at. They have to go to Michigan to play Michigan. And I think they also have Michigan State this Friday as well. Friday as well. It's going to be tough sledding. I think Michigan is a decent team. They're not anything they're not anyone to overlook, but I feel Wisconsin is playing so much better. They also added Chanel Bramschreiber. I forgot to mention, Chanel Bramschreiber is now eligible as she had to miss the first few games just because, unfortunately, I don't mean to bring this up, but long story short, she was thinking about playing professionally after her college volleyball career. She hired an agent, but the NCAA said that's a big no-no. They made her ineligible for the first few games, and now, keep in mind she transferred from Baylor, mind you, and now she's basically out of jail. Finally, she gets to play, and obviously she did not take that well. The Wisconsin coach, Kelly Sheffield, didn't take that anywhere near well. So for Chanel Bramschreiber to finally be eligible, I am happy. As Adam says, he's got to set up for Chi-Town Weekly. Yes, I'm going to make sure I wrap up soon because Chi-Town Weekly comes on in 15 minutes as of this time and point of Monday. But Wisconsin and Michigan is another notable matchup. And then also on Sunday, we have USC at number 7, Stanford. All right, USC. You've won 6 in a row. You're tied atop the Pac-12 standings. You were once ranked, but now are unranked. This is your chance to shine. If there's ever a moment USC has to come up big, if the women of Troy have to come up big, this is the week to do so. You're on the road. You're at Stanford. Stanford has kind of been your boogeyman, as I think, they've won 9 in a row against the Trojans? I think it's 9 or 10 in a row, but Stanford is going to be the big mountain to climb. If USC wins this will be huge. USC will be back in that top 25, and more importantly, they will be all alone in first place in the Pac-12, just like in the Sammy Bricio days. However, this is going to be a very tough Stanford team to win at, especially when they're playing at Maples Pavilion. It's going to be tough. Look at that Stanford team. It's not just Kendall Kipp and Katie Baer. They've got other good players, such as Sammy Francis, Aaliyah Rubin. She is Miss Pac-12 Freshman of the Week, and she's probably going to be Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. I would not be surprised if Aaliyah Rubin went off. Cammie Minor has been phenomenal. The list goes on and on when it comes to Stanford. Stanford has depth on their team. There's a reason why Stanford is number 7 in the AVCA coaches poll. But if USC pulls off that win, it would be huge for them. It'll be the biggest win in the Brad Keller era, surpassing that Oregon win. I'm very excited to see what the Trojans have in store for Stanford. But it's going to be a tough mountain to climb. And then the definitely noteworthy matchups for this week. Starting on Wednesday, we have number 3 Nebraska at number 12 Purdue. All right, Purdue, you had a tough fall against Maryland. you gotta get up off that mat and show Nebraska who's boss. They also had to go 5 with Indiana. Granted, they won that 1 in 5 last week, and they have won 20 in a row over Indiana, but it's Indiana, dude. Like, you're supposed to... No offense to Indiana, but Purdue being the number 9 team that they are, they're supposed to pretty much win that one fairly easy. I'm not trying to take anything away from Indiana, but I just think Purdue, they're kind of showing me why I'm not high on them. There's a reason why I think Wisconsin is better than Purdue, and one of the reasons is because Purdue still has that young team. Eva Hudson is a beast. However, they still have a young team, and they have to face they're not facing the big dogs, as they're facing Nebraska. And then on Friday, we have BYU, which is currently ranked number 17, taking on number 4 San Diego. BYU has a huge hill to climb. They have to go on the road, meaning they have to go away from their little dome in Provo, and they have to go down to beautiful San Diego to play the Toreros. For San Diego, if they win this matchup, they're all alone in first place. Well, they'll still be all alone in first place, but they'll have a little bit more breathing room as they're only 1 game ahead of BYU. If BYU wins, then the two are tied atop the conference, and then that's where it gets really interesting. But for San Diego, they have a lot to prove. This is your moment to shine. You have to prove to me why you are number 4 in the nation. Also, you have to prove to everyone why you were number 3 in the NCAA committee's top 10 poll. So, get her done, San Diego. And for BYU, you can't afford any more losses, because you have won to that Pacific team. You can't afford too many more against some of the other teams. And this is just the tip of the... And San Diego is basically, I think they're like the halfway point. But either way, you can't afford to lose any more games, because now they're probably going to be NCAA tournament team. But if they don't have any more big breakout wins, they're not going to be a part of that top 16 echelon where they get to host. Anyway, jumping over to Saturday, we have number 12 Purdue at number 10 Minnesota. I was going to put this one down in the notable matchups, but I think this is a little bit too it's too intense to be a really good matchup. So Purdue obviously has great success in hold away gym, but now the tables have turned. They're heading down to Minnesota to take on the Golden Gophers. So Minnesota lost to Purdue in the first meeting, but now they have a little bit of a chance of revenge. And I'm not going to use the term underdog, just because when it comes to Big Ten volleyball, all bets are off. There's no such thing as underdog. Every team is good against everyone. For Purdue, they have a chance to prove themselves that last week was a little bit of a blip in the radar. For Minnesota, they have a chance to assert themselves as one of the Big Ten powerhouses, because for Minnesota, it doesn't get much easier going forward. I still think they have to play. I don't think they've played Nebraska, and I think they have yet to play. Penn State. But overall, Minnesota, you got some proving to do, and same with you, Purdue. And then the last matchup in the definitely noteworthy category, and the last matchup I have entirely, and this is kind of my match of the week right here. We have number 2 Louisville at number 8 Pitt. I was going to have BYU and San Diego as my match of the week, but I think Louisville-Pitt is the only top 10 matchup we have. Top 10 matchup versus top 10 matchup we have. So Louisville and Pitt are tied atop the ACC. Winner moves up, is all alone in first place. Loser basically stays in second. For Pitt, this is their chance. They have to prove themselves in Fitzgerald or Gymnasium against the big bad boogeyman Louisville. Louisville is obviously quite amazing. They're some kind of amazing, as Claire Chaussee is just straight up outstanding. And Anna DeBeer is also amazing as well. On the Pitt side of things, they have Juliana Dalton, Courtney Bizzario. Pitt is just having a great season overall. And I like both of these teams' chances. I kind of have to lean toward Louisville, but don't count out Pitt. Pitt is a phenomenal team. Losing Kayla Lund does not mean a whole lot to them. Well, okay, I wouldn't say go that far, but everyone that's thinking that whatchamacallit, Pitt was going to take a step backward without Kayla Lund is basically gone loco. I definitely think Pitt is going to bring it to Louisville, but I kind of have to lean toward Louisville. So that is going to do it for all of my matchups to watch for in week number 9. We're already in week 9, my goodness. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. It is that time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Coming up in about 5 minutes, we have Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Carnett. He has got that exciting news to kick off. You don't want to miss it if you're listening live. Definitely tune in to Adam's show. I'm sure he's got a lot to talk about in terms of the world of Chicago sports. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action that is happening. Next week, Set Point, unless stated otherwise, it will be on at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. It'll probably be the last time I shuffle around my show time. After next week, Set Point should be back to its original 6 p.m. Pacific time and then 9 p.m. Eastern. Shout out to the live chat room that listened in. Marcus Looks Great, Adam Carnick, and Mike Pat. Appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate everyone's support. Definitely do follow Set Point on Twitter at set_point.ie. Set_point.ie. It's in the description. Timestamps will be added as well. Until then, have a great weekend. Have a great week. I will see you Friday for the SoCal, Thursday for the SoCal. Peace!